You're watching as a construction worker at a construction site crawls below a load of lumber suspended by straps from a crane. This is a dangerous safety violation and one that might have gone unnoticed except for advanced surveillance technology employed on construction sites. It's the kind of technology that has caused safety to dramatically improve across construction sites nationwide and workers' compensation claims to come down, thereby lowering what companies pay for premiums. AeroSite technology has been employed in many of these construction sites. Its CEO, Adam Aronson, joins me today, along with the head of construction for Zurich North America. That's a big insurance company, Tobias Cushing. It's great to see both of you here. I understand that this is a sort of camera surveillance system. Can you talk me through, Adam, how it works to improve safety?
Yeah, definitely, and thanks for having us. So everything that you just saw in that video, that was a coaching moment. And so a long time ago when I started this company back in 2002, it really came from an idea around sports and sort of how it works so well in the game film environment, bringing it into the business world. And so what you saw there is kind of like root cause analysis of the things that can hurt or kill people on job sites. That's one example. There's fall protection and being struck by machines. But essentially what we're doing is we're getting rugged, cell-enabled, battery-powered camera systems out onto projects, and we're reviewing those films overnight and providing little bite-sized, game film clips in the morning to coach these workers to get from 70% of the time to almost 100% of the time complying with these critically important work tasks.
Who's reviewing the video?
So we have civil engineers that are doing kind of meticulous reviews of these high-risk work activities. We call it smart sampling. So we're not looking at everything, but we're looking at the work activities. When you really kind of look at the root causes of the worst injuries and fatalities, what's causing them? And so we're focusing in on those activities with civil engineers, and we have actually 3 people that review any video that we deliver in the morning as a coaching moment.
So you're talking about things like latching into safety harnesses when you're up high, or walking in these blocked out areas where, hey, don't walk there because the crane is up above you and could drop the load. So Toby, when you look at how effective this sort of surveillance is and the coaching, what have you seen in terms of workers' comp claims when the advanced tech is deployed on construction sites?
Yeah, we saw amazing results, so thank you for having us to share. We zeroed in on 9 projects in New York City in particular and compared the results in over $2.5 billion of construction to our previous around 10 years of results. And we saw a 70% reduction in the frequency of workers' comp claims, almost an 80% reduction in the severity of workers' comp claims, and a near elimination, so basically 100% elimination so far of the liability lawsuits that are really driving the costs of construction. But for us, it was all about the safety and trying to prevent falls and struck-bys and bring workers home at night.
Does when there are fewer claims, when those claims are not as severe, does it then lower the premiums that companies have to pay for their workers' compensation insurance?
So we absolutely give credit for contractors that use technology like this, and then when you get into very complex construction or you get into very challenging jurisdictions like New York, we choose to only partner with contractors who are willing to do it. So it really takes what is essentially an uninsurable risk and makes it insurable so that we can price it. And then outside of places like New York, like on data centers, we'll be incentivizing and even participating in the cost. So it's actually going to be something where we participate in the cost of it, and it will reduce their premiums.
There's so much spending right now, tens of billions of dollars going into data centers, and Caterpillar in their earnings call actually pointed out that it was one of the big factors in lifting earnings is that their excavators, are being deployed now on these data center projects. But what about it in New York City made it so revolutionary that you are demanding that the projects that you insure deploy this technology?
Yeah, so in New York, many of our policyholders, it takes 7 to 10% of the cost of construction of the building for just insurance premiums. So imagine if you're building a $300 million building, you're paying around $30 million of insurance for the liability and workers' comp. And that typically is 1 to 5% of the cost of the building everywhere else in the country. So we really have a cost crisis. Some people have tried to focus on finding out if some of those claims are fraudulent or exaggerated. We saw the root cause being the injury actually happening. So we decided to focus on, I think, what makes us really good as a construction vertical, which is what Adam talked about, root cause analysis, and saying, how do we prevent the injuries from happening? And in New York, most policyholders are taking $3 and $5 million deductibles. So they themselves are bearing huge costs.
There's a metric that helps decide how much companies pay for these premiums. And you saw that metric, once this was deployed, drop from 0.65 to 0.25. How dramatic is that decrease?
Yeah, what you're talking about is what's called a workers' comp modification factor, or workers' comp mod. So when you look at a contractor, like say a heavy civil contractor that has a 1.0 workers' comp mod, that means their workers' comp results are in line with their peers. We had a mutual client where their workers' comp experience decreased the 30–40% that you're talking about after incorporating this technology and process into their safety culture.
Okay, so if we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in investment for infrastructure just for data centers, what's the opportunity for AeroSite? And I'm curious whether AI is going to factor into this kind of surveillance for you at all.
No, a great point and great question. So data centers are just sort of, everybody's talking about it, right? So, you know, we have actually collaborated and are beginning that journey of meeting with the big hyperscalers and looking at the opportunities to help improve safety there. And one of the interesting things, you know, we use AI a lot in manufacturing, where things are very consistent, where you have full power and cameras are close to the action, and there's a lot of repetitive behavior, you know, product in the case of a factory. In construction, it's very different. 90% of our cameras don't have power, so we need batteries. And AI is very, you know, power consuming. And so for now, and for most of the work that we do, we're going to use people augmented with some AI. And I think you know, the opportunities, not just for the main things that we focus on for buildings, which are sort of, you know, the major things that we talked about before, falls, struck-bys, but there's also a lot of electrocution risk, right? Think of a data center, how much electricity is being, so there's a lot of opportunities with lockout, tagout, and other kind of important applications that we're gonna, you know, work with the partners to pioneer.
When we're talking about workers' compensation and construction specifically, I understand meatpacking plants are another area, but is there also use cases for, say, medical malpractice suits and improving outcomes in medical situations?
Yeah, you know, the journey that we've been on, which started in 2002, started in the food industry, and then we got into healthcare very heavily. You know, sort of call it 2008 through you know, now, and there, if you kind of look again, the root cause analysis of the worst things that go on in a hospital, a lot of it's in the operating rooms. So wrong-sided surgeries, surgical site infections. And so we've been working in that space for quite a while and reducing the risk of a, you know, wrong-sided surgery or an infection. That's a big part of our business as well.
It's fascinating the way that technology can alter it, and not always, as you point out, in AI. Aaron, Tobias, thank you so much for shedding a little bit of light on this exciting new field.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.